Hello, hello, hello. My name is Dennis. That's my crime. It's also my punishment. And welcome to a very quick and impromptu, stream recording and all that, where I try and give you a little bit of an update about what I am working on, or what I have been working on for the past couple of months. At the moment, you can see a little bit of a nice little slideshow taken from the various bits and pieces of art from the 7th edition version of the Call of Cthulhu. Because that's the new campaign that we are working on. Hello, yes, it is I. Welcome once more. It has been a while since I did a quick update about the Call of Cthulhu campaign that I've been working on. There is a hound of children's along the background there. But yeah, the long and the short of it is, I have taken a couple of months to really go into detail with this new project. Basically, I've taken a bunch of different pre-existing scenarios from the whole history of this game, and basically I've cut them up, moved bits around, basically tried to create an actual campaign based on these pre-existing scenarios, and that campaign is something that I would like to call the Nightmares of Arkham. So, if you've seen the previous video, this particular screen is probably nothing new to you, although the particular images in the background might have changed somewhat. What Nightmares of Arkham is, it is a series of 12 scenarios, which, believe it or not, that is the curated, cut-down version of the scenarios which I was initially thinking of running. Basically, I took a bunch of different scenarios from all over the history of Call of Cthulhu, all the way from the 80s to modern day. A good chunk of quote-unquote official Chaosium storylines, but also a couple of more fan-made ones from places such as Drive-Thru RPG and the Miskatonic Repository, which I believe is also on Drive-Thru RPG. The visuals, a lot of the handouts and everything, I've spent a long time basically trying to adjust the visuals, basically make, where possible, brand new handouts, so the visual quality is somewhat consistent, especially when you have repeating characters who show up in different scenarios or different reoccurring themes and elements. For example, Miskatonic University, you can see a little thing down here. I actually picked this up from the H.P. Lovecraft Historical Society. They have a whole bunch of amazing resources and both physical and digital props. They've got a lot of really, really interesting stuff there, which I do recommend checking out. But basically I've taken a good chunk of their stuff and also handouts from various other creators over on, again, Drive-Thru RPG, really good website. And basically I've been cobbling these together into in the attempts to make this campaign a lot more interconnected and a lot more consistent. For example, I won't bring it up, but I ended up there is a digital newspaper that someone made. They basically made the Arkham Advertiser, but they made it as an entire physical prop. So it's absolutely wall-to-wall, articles, advertisements, and everything. And each one of these little newspaper clippings can be used as, a seed to, spiral off into making your own stories. And quite a few different bits and pieces have actually been released based on that. Oh, that's odd. For some reason, the window just in the stream. Oh, there we go. Okay. Note to self: do not minimize the window on my screen because then it ruins it on the stream. So I will keep that in mind. But one thing I didn't add would be, let's see, we're going to do display capture, and we are going to, this, you can tell this was an impromptu thing that I did not, no. Okay, I think I goofed up there. I'm a professional. I'm a professional. Absolutely. I know exactly what I'm doing. All I wanted to show. So, display capture. I guess it's not display capture. So, let's go with a PDF, and it is going to be. There you go. Boom. Okay, and I'm gonna have this over here on this side of the screen. So this is a list of some of the various sources where I've taken these scenarios from. So this is spread throughout the whole history of Call of Cthulhu. We've got a couple of scenarios from New Tales of Miskatonic and more adventures in Arkham Country. We have the recent redesign of Deadlight, the slightly better known Doors to Darkness. But yeah, this was what I was talking about, Dateline Lovecraft. There's a whole series of adventures based on specific newspaper clippings that they made. And later on in the scenario, we may or may not be making some use out of a slightly ignored part of the Lovecraft's setting, Kingsport. I just realized I'm mimicking the mysterious dude in the robe there, but yeah, Kingsport. I actually didn't know that much about Kingsport until I started looking up some of the scenarios from New Tales of Miskatonic Valley that I wanted to use, and yeah, guy, Kingsport's awesome, and basically that kind of spider-webbed, no pun intended, into me heavily shifting the focus of the campaign side, because originally it was going to be just Arkham, because I don't have it up at the moment, but I have the Arkham setting book from the late 90s, early 2000s, and I've been making a big deal out of incorporating that into this campaign and using that as the backbone and the foundation of this campaign. In fact, I got that all set up back during Christmas of last year, so this has been a long building process to get this campaign and this version of Arkham really fleshed out and filled with characters and story and potential. But yeah, Kingsport kind of surprised me, and I just got really obsessed with the some of the stories that you can tell with Kingsport, and there's some really interesting stuff there, guys, and I'm very excited to see what my players or what you find there, because the whole point of this campaign is, at this point in time, this is not going to be a streamed game like some of my previous ones. This is actually something that I'm running on StartPlaying.games. This is basically my second job, and at this exact point in time, we are aiming for a regular Tuesday game. It is going to be Eastern Standard Time from around 3 o'clock to 6 o'clock. So it's replacing a existing campaign that I've got at the moment. I currently run a World of Warcraft inspired 5th edition D&D homebrew game. that is slowly winding down. I'm just taking my players through Shadowfang Keep, which is a dungeon from the World of Warcraft MMO. And after that, I want to transition into this as my main campaign that I'm hopefully running for the entirety of 2024. Who knows, maybe longer. Because, as I said, there was a lot of stuff that I had to leave on the cutting room floor because I got really excited. I was like, oh, I can use this, I can use this, I can use this, and trying to narrow it down and trying to only pick the highlights and only pick the best stories that connect in a way that lets me tell a specific story. And yes, there is going to be, this isn't just going to be a complete mismatch. There is a very specific scenario and a very specific story that's being told. But what that story is something you're going to have to uncover. Because again, the difference between this and, say, other games that I've run in the past is this one is going to be an actual mystery. As in, the whole point is the players, for the most part, they don't really know what's going on, and they are learning as they go. They're uncovering clues, and it's not just like the physical handouts. It's like, you know, the conversations with NPCs, that, you know, whether they're trailing people, you know, unlike the one-shots of Call of Cthulhu that I've run in the past, this isn't one where I'm like, okay, we have a certain amount of time, so I'm going to just give you all these handouts. I'm going to at least give you the basic Cliff Notes version of what you think might have happened, blah, 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 blah. No. This is an entirely open-ended, long-form game. So I will give the players nudges every now and then, and I will present them the various clues and information. But if the players make the wrong choices, if they make the wrong interpretation, they put the wrong people in jail, then yeah, that's great. That's absolutely great, because the situation is going to continue regardless. There's going to be plenty more places for them to go and, plenty more things for them to encounter. And I may or may not tell them if it's situational, but I'm actually kind of excited about a long-form mystery where maybe you get it wrong, and, you know, that's okay. That's not like losing the game, because the whole point of games like this is the experience. And again, you know, that feeling of like uncovering a mystery, you know, trying to figure out where things connect. There's a Cthulhu campaign. This was actually the biggest inspiration out of everything for me, out of the different podcasts I've listened to. The Call, which is both an audio and now it's a video podcast by Twisted Gear Studios. You can get them on YouTube and on Spotify. The Call is an amazing example of a homebrew long-form Cthulhu game. This one, not so much homebrew, because I needed something to start with, so I've taken existing scenarios. I've changed things, I've edited things, I've taken the body parts and I've Frankensteined them together into something new and different that flows a little bit better, in my opinion. But what they do is 90% of that is completely homebrew and original. There's some specific scenarios halfway down the road where it's like they basically do The Haunting, which is the classic Call of Cthulhu scenario. It's like, if you play Call of Cthulhu, it's a very high chance you have played The Haunting. However, they have basically changed it so much and added so much that it is basically seamlessly fit into this other ongoing narrative that they're working on. And that really inspired me to do something kind of similar, and that is hopefully what Nightmares of Arkham is going to become. So yeah, basically that I think is pretty much it. I did have some like notes that I was going to hit, but hey, then I hit record and then my brain just went beep out the window. That's pretty much how these things go. But yeah, this is a paid game. at this point in time. So first come, first serve. I believe at the moment it is. It'd be a good idea if I just. I had the. In fact, I can just do it this way because this is actually probably going to treat that as a spoiler for a moment. If you give me 1 second. Let me think. So, now, for those interested, if you have run other, classic Call of Cthulhu scenarios before and you don't want to tread the same old ground, then the way I've designed it is because we're using 12 pre-existing scenarios for this campaign, there should be plenty of jumping on and stepping off points, for those who don't want to do the same thing. I mean, I would, of course, want to keep people for as long as possible, but I think I've made enough changes to where, like, meta knowledge, meta awareness isn't going to be as much of an issue for players. Again, as I mentioned, a good chunk of the fun of this game, it's not combat like D&D. It's more about the figuring out what's going on and mystery. But I like to think, even with games that have been, maybe a little bit too done to death at this point, again, like, say Deadlight, Ties That Bind, Crimson Letters, probably. I'm sure many people have run Crimson Letters at this point since it's in the Keeper's book, but I have faith that all the other scenarios that I've picked up, ones which are slightly less well read, less done over and over, and how I've changed things to where all these different stories intersect. I like to think that is going to make the replayability worth it, and those people who have already say they know what the Deadlight is and what's going on with the Ties That Bind, to avoid too many spoilers. I like to think that I have enough going on to where you would be okay with a little bit of meta awareness, and maybe hopefully don't spoil it for the other players. That would be nice. But anyway, for those curious, there is going to be a link in the description below when this goes up on YouTube that goes over to my StartPlaying. In fact, let me just start playing games, and just go over to my profile. I was so credit balance 0. That flipping says it all, doesn't it? There is my. Let's check our calendar out for next year, and then we can see Nightmare's Rock. Here we go. So, obviously no spoilers there. I've got a couple of dates set up, but yeah, $18 per player. The first couple of people, you get an early bird discount, so it's going to be half price for $9. And it is going to be, this is the basic page, gives me a little bit of information about what's going on. As I said, it's an ongoing campaign featuring a variety of interconnected scenarios set in and around the fictional town of Arkham, Massachusetts. So, say at the very early 1920s, as in 1920 itself, unless that changes at the 11th hour. We'll see what happens there. But yeah, basically, content warnings, gameplay details. It's all run, as you can see, through Foundry. Basically, you sign up here, and it's going to, again, I mentioned what the time is. For me, it's 3 o'clock till 6 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. However, this particular time is going to change because it's all based on your location. So you don't have to do any obnoxious math. It is going to tell you what time it is going to be, whether it's going to be good for you or not. So, As you can see here, I have a folder filled with some scenarios. Some of them I'm running, some of them I'm not. This was all one-shots that I've done for other people in the past, where I was learning how Foundry works and everything. But I would say the last little thing, and this is more slightly spoilery, this is more for keepers, I suppose, or if you're worried about there being a specific scenario that you don't want to experience again. This is going to be the list of the 12 scenarios that I intend to run over the year of 2024. We're going to open up, and another thing, I'm basically breaking this up into 4 chunks because, let's be honest, as much as some of us want to be able to commit to a full year's worth of gaming, life happens, and sometimes things just come at you really hard. So what I'm doing in this instance, and I should probably hide PDFs there, oops, forgot that was up. What I'm planning on doing is I'm planning on having all 4 of these hopefully take place within 2024. However, if it gets to a point where I go through Act 1 and there's zero interest, nobody's really biting, it's not really working for people, then yeah, I'll just bite the bullet. We'll just end it there and we'll see what happens. Maybe I'll try it at a different time slot. Maybe I'm going to have it where this is actually turned into, like you see now, a streaming game. Now, the only reason I don't instantly go for streaming is, first of all, this is a job. I am doing this to be paid, and it is a lot more difficult to be paid for streaming RPGs than it is for actual paying customers to sit down and pay you for the experience. I've found that working on StartPlaying is actually a lot more of a steady income than streaming on Twitch and YouTube and so on and so forth. The other thing is that some of the setup that I have here, I'm actually going to jump back over here real quick. I've had this music playing for a good chunk. Now, while I do have a bunch of royalty-free music, thanks to Foundry and blah blah blah, I also have a whole bunch of movie soundtracks and video game soundtracks. There's things from like The Mummy. I actually have like Candela Obscura, which is a recent Critical Role production. I've got the whole of LA Noire and this and the other, which I'm not going to play in this video. But the long and the short of it is, if I were to try and stream, I would have to do a completely new soundtrack. And what can I show you without spoiling anything? Let's show you how I have it set up with Edge of Darkness real quick, because everyone knows Edge of Darkness at this point. But yeah, as you see here, I have some little, buttons here. And it's these little buttons I have set up inside the scenario as I'm explaining what's going on, where the music changes. And I go through my details, and then it's like I click this and then it switches to a slightly different scene once again, and blah 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 blah. So actually, yeah, we'll keep this one up for a little bit more. But anyway, that is the reason why I would need to spend a little bit of time changing things up, Yeah, actually, that looping goat sound drives me insane. So, this is the final little bit I am going to do before I stop my meandering rambling. This is actually the full plan that I have for this scenario. We're going to open And the one I'm really going to talk about is Act 1, because I think that's the one that I think is the most important. The idea of Act 1 is to ground our players, to bring them into Arkham. In fact, if I'm talking about Arkham, I am going to actually use this, because this is actually rapidly becoming my favourite track for describing Arkham itself. It's from Candela Obscura. It's beautiful. But Arkham, Massachusetts, as a setting, is just... I love it. I absolutely love it. If it wasn't for buying the setting book last year, none of this would have happened, probably. There's just so much there. There's so much history. There's so many interesting characters and all these little corners of nastiness going on. But yeah, I wanted to have the first few stories be that classic Cthulhu vibe of normal people going about their daily lives. They are pulled into a very mundane investigation, something very pedestrian, very normal, but with plenty of mystery and intrigue. And it's the more they pull at threads, the more they're starting to see that there's something very strange going on. So the Reeling Midnight, which is from the New Tales of Miskatonic, Help Wanted, which is from Dateline Cthulhu, and None More Black, which is from Doorways to Darkness. I think that these three scenarios together are a really good overall introduction to Arkham, to the investigative process, and also to slowly peel back the layers. Another thing I really wanted to push as well before we get too far into it, not every single one, there's meta knowledge, okay. You know that with a game called Call of Cthulhu, at some point there is going to be, Cthulhu, there's, giant squid things, there's all sorts of horrible monsters. It isn't a Monster of the Week story. It isn't a game where, there's monsters are going to be popping up every 5 seconds. The vibe I'm going for is a very slow burn one, and there are going to be, sometimes it's going to just be people being people that's the real problem, and it's not always going to be a big scary monster, is all I'm going to say there. It's not always a big scary monster. But yeah, Act 1 is the one that I really put a lot of work into trying to get just the right set of scenarios down. Act 2 immediately follows, and those two scenarios are designed to branch out the setting. So we've spent a good chunk of time in Arkham, but now with Tides Are Blind and Ghosts of the Florentina, we start to branch out and we see other areas of the Miskatonic Valley. We see Ipswich. Not that much going on with Ipswich, maybe as much as some of the other settings, but Ties That Bind gives us a little bit of information. It basically gives you a it's something where you're not just trapped into this one small town, you're actually going out into the wider world, and you're interacting with shall we say, various different levels of society in the area. Ghosts of the Florentina is what really inspired me to go deep into Kingsport. Literally just 5 minutes down the road from Arkham. This beautiful coastal town, its history, all of the things that are going on in Kingsport. I think Ghosts of the Florentina is a great introduction to that, and maybe a few other interesting things. Don't want to spoil too much there. The third act is going to be one, I would say, these first two acts, these are kind of the introductions to the setting and the wider area, and basically the main region that where we're going to be playing in. Act 3 is where the story really kicks off and where we begin to get focused on what the problem really is. Deadlight, Spare the Rod, Crimson Letters. If you know anything about Arkham and the wider area of New England, you might be able to pick up on some of the themes in some of these scenarios. Yeah, this is where the meandering and the exploration kind of stops, and we get a bit more focused on some of the more present and active threats that the players are going to be dealing with. And Act 4 is where the world just explodes into chaos. Pickman's student. I'm sure there's a couple of people who hear the name Pickman and they might have one or two ideas about things that might be going on there. Malice Everlasting is another one from the new Tales of Miskatonic. Originally that was going to be much earlier up on the list, but I realised given how explosive it could be, I think that it's better to have it as like in the more dramatic Act 4 where everything's just popping off and it's chaos. House on the Edge, I think, is a very good second to last scenario to basically as a reward for players having gotten that far, is all I'll say there. And lastly, the final story, the big climax. No spoilers, no sneaky peeking, otherwise you will be punished, is going to be Season of the Witch. And I think that is the only real spoiler that you all deserve. So that is basically my plan for 2024. If you are interested in playing through the Nightmares of Arkham, please track me down on StartPlaying. My name is Dennis. What is my actual... Yeah. Pretty sure that if you view profile, it's Dirty Den. So startplaying.games/GM/Dirty Den, and I will be right there. That is my timer, and that is all the time we have left, my children. So I would like you all to be good to yourselves, be safe, be well, and if you have any questions, you can, I would used to say follow me on Twitter, but these days, Blue Sky, so bsky.app/blah blah whatever, it's DeVillo. It's DeVillo on Blue Sky. Look at that handsome boy, oh my gosh. But anyway, that is pretty much it for now. Be safe, be well, and until next time, beware.